or I should say the physical manifestation of ascension to the higher or next dimension, because we are truly shifting into the fifth dimension. The fourth dimension is going to be very, very short. It's just a passage into the fifth. And so, again, this is a time when we don't really need to have the discussion about ascension. When is it going to happen? How is it going to happen? What's it going to look like? What do we do with all the chaos? That is really a conversation that keeps us down. It keeps our vibration. It just it's like putting a weight on to go floating in a pool. Not going to happen. All right, you're going to sink. So what we want to do is release that energy. Now, what does that say for our healing of old things that have been plaguing us? What does it say for relationships that we seem to attract that have a negative influence on us? All those kinds of things. What does it say for communities that are suffering at a great disadvantage due to the whole concept between the haves and the not and the greed and so forth? What does that say for all of that? It says that every individual is empowered with the God stuff, the divine force, that can create a way out of it, not just for a singular moment, but for time eternal. That's pretty powerful. So the question becomes, who are you? Who are you willing to accept yourself to be? And as far as healing goes, do I want to stay stuck in my old paradigm, or am I ready to step forward out of it? And if you make the decision to step forward out of it, it's okay to know that there may be times that we stumble. There may be times that we get frustrated. Yeah, all of that goes with it. But you know what? So what? So what? Not in a sense of insensitivity, but so what in the sense of, wow, what does each one of those moments represent for our own eternal, I was going to say internal, and then the word eternal came out, our own eternal evolution. Okay? Everything that happens to us is a gift. Everything. Whether it seems to be the worst thing or the best thing, it is all a gift. And that, if we're totally limiting our consciousness to focus purely in the physical, will be a very difficult concept to grasp. But if we see ourselves within the divine perfection of who we are, then we'll see that all things work to our greater good. And in a time of accelerated energy, the things that will come at us to propel us forward faster they're right there. They're right around every corner. And you're going to bump into them. And each time you bump into them, more of the old falls away to make room for the new. What's important, and this is that whole ascension tension piece. Okay, so how do we create an environment that allows us to shift in terms of being able to say, oh, okay, so we have ascended, so I must remember the divine perfection in all things. How do I support myself through this process? And one of the things that's very, very important is slowing down. I mentioned that earlier. Slowing down. Great time to do intermittent silence fast, to do fasting on any level, anything that has you fast from it periodically for a period of time. Okay? The other thing is, I mentioned slowing down, silence, relationships. This is really important. You can't embody the shift and be void of relationship. Hear that again. You cannot embody this shift and be void of relationships. Every relationship that you have has a key for you for your own personal ascension. Just as you have a key for every person you're in relationship with for their ascension. Because there is a magnetic pull, there's like a magnetosphere around each of us that vibrates at a higher level. In other words, it is magnetized greater and greater and greater by our ability to connect with those in the universe that have a message for each of us. Each of us have keys. This is the time when that magnetosphere is pulling to it that which can help it to grow. It is also a time when that magnetosphere is when two come together that aren't meant to come together, or two groups, it will separate. So there's a natural order that is happening. We don't have to make it happen. We just have to open ourselves to access relationships with others. It's important to do that. Find your crystal cluster. In fact, I would guarantee that most of you are already finding yourself being brought into relationship with other people who think like you, or who you feel have answers that you've been seeking, and it all feels very familiar, and often it's very random that it's happening, or appears to be random. But it's not. This is not a time for isolation, for nothing in the universe can propel itself forward in isolation of anything else. It takes all of the forces of the universe intersecting together, representing the greatest expansion of diversity, in order to burst into something new. That's where we are now. And so we need to avail ourselves to these relationships, to allow ourselves to be brought into relationships even when it hurts. And by that I mean even when the energy of the relationships is forcing us to have to move through things that we don't want to move through. That's the purpose. Everybody in the cluster, the grandmother calls these the crystal cluster. Everybody that comes forward in the crystal cluster is coming forward to raise each other. So therefore, there's going to be times when it's uncomfortable. There are going to be times when you want to run. But the greatest gift will come to those who will stand in the midst of all of that and declare their true perfection. That what is happening there is more important than them just feeling good, or more important than them just feeling okay. So relationships are crucial to this process. The other thing is to be in nature, to allow yourselves to be out amongst things, especially to feel the spirit of the divine flow and the divine force that is at work in all things. And the last thing, and this is perhaps one of the most complicated on some levels, and that is to know that there is nothing that you are bearing witness to that is outside of the divine ordering that's taking place as a result of the ascension that has already happened. Nothing. Our job is to where are we going to place our energy, our attention, our focus in declaring divine perfection in all things, and understanding that the fuel of that is love. The fuel of all of that is love. Being in love. Being full of love. That beingness of love that is perfectly flowing in us. That means that not only does it flow in us, that is what raises, as I said earlier, the vibration and frequency, that we become the light beings, which is who we are. And in that, all the energy that is within us goes out into all beings that we come into contact with, whether we say a word or not. It doesn't matter. Because at that point, God is working in us and through us, and that is something that we do not have to know what God is doing. Because that's what time it is. That's who we are. We are a part of that divine perfection, walking in that divine perfection. All we have to do is love enough, trust enough, let go enough, and let God do the work in us and through us in all things. God by any name. Recognizing that it is the differences in the universe. It is the storehouse of diversity that creates the ultimate perfection. Without diversity, we wouldn't have it, because God seeks to express itself infinitely in all matters, in all possible configurations. And so that's the greatest love, to be able to embrace that diversity without owning it, without trying to make it into anything, but just as we look out into the world, we can appreciate the diversity of nature. We can appreciate the diversity of each and every human being, each and every circumstance, each and every form of life, each and every form of matter, And know that we are raising the vibration as we are shifting now. Millions of people shifting right to the next dimension now. We are shifting because it's already happened. Because love has already brought us forward. Our consciousness now has to remember. We have to be willing to allow ourselves to reach deep into our subconscious and pull it forward. And it's already happening. It's happening in our dreams. It's happening in our music. It's happening everywhere. And so the ultimate message is simply ascend. Ascend. Recognize divine perfection. Recognize it in you. Pick up a paintbrush. Pick up an instrument. Walk. Sing. Dance. Express. Because that's what creativity wants to do in each of us. Express, because we are starbursts now. Expressing the next level of humanity. Expressing the next level of enlightenment. Expressing the next age. And don't be worried about whether anyone believes you, whether anyone really fully understands, because you know what? Nobody truly understands what's happening in this moment. But the more you practice, you're going to get it. One day you'll just wake up and wow, it will all make sense. I guarantee it. It will all make sense. But you can't make it happen. You have to let it happen. Let God happen to you, and let's all ascend.